This is Uncle Stu, the old man on the block. And today I got a special guest for not only the brothers, but the sisters too. The one, the only, my number one TikToker in the house, Miss Glow. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am doing well, doing well. Well, I want to thank you for coming by and hanging out with Uncle Stu, and everybody that's going to see you and whatnot. So, like I said in the introduction, I saw you on TikTok and I was very, impressed by the messages you was giving. You are, from what I can see, a male advocate.
Yes.
A male advocate. So let's start from the beginning. How did you, started doing content on TikTok? And now, are you on any other social platforms?
Yes, I am. I'm on YouTube and Facebook as well.
Okay. How did you get started? When did you get started? How did you get started?
Actually, I started about 2 years ago watching the Mr. KS show with my husband. And we watched his content, and we, stopped it and talked about it. And from then on, I was like, you know what? I said, my husband's Black, my father is Black, and my son is Black. I'm going to advocate for Black men because they need love too. Awesome.
It's ironic that you talk about, the late Kevin Samuels. I did that with my wife as well. When she first, heard of him, she seen him through the clips. She was like, oh, I can't stand that man. I was like, no. We got to watch a whole video. So we would actually watch, a couple of his shows. And, I would tell her, the women he's talking about is not you. But I have experienced, those similar things. And, so after she watched a couple of things, then I would actually take her out in public. And, I would show her how people actually react to me, and I would say, okay, watch how I go through this cashier. Watch how this Black cashier reacts to me. And then watch how this white cashier reacts to me.
Yes.
And she was actually able to see Black one be mad, wouldn't look at me, do that. White one want to give me a whole conversation. Mm-hmm. And then we would do experiments. I would take her, we would go to different shopping places. And I'm dressed decent, I'm not doing the hoodie stuff. I'll go to an old white lady. Hey, can I help you put that in your car? Oh, yeah, sure. Go to a Asian, and we did with different nationalities, all within the similar age range. Go to the Black woman, I was mean mugged, or they wouldn't even talk to me. They'll look directly at her and ask her, can he do this? Hey, I'm the one who's offering, I'm trying to be the so-called man. So yes, my wife has saw that as well.
Yes.
Being that you watch Kevin Samuels and you watched it with your husband and it provoked you to want to be a content creator, is there any particular video, is there any particular thing that he said that made you really dig into yourself as a woman and really reflect on what Black men are going through?
Yes, because through past experiences, I realized that, not only, it's not just my demeanor, it's the way I carry myself. It's also just how you treat people in general. And it's funny that you say that about the experiences and the experiments, that me as a Black woman was like, I used to not smile. I used to not, just be nice because of the past relationships. And that's what he always said in one of his videos, is that you cannot bring your past relationships into your future relationship. Mm-hmm. And that brick wall was like, wow, you know what? I experienced the same thing. I had a situation, and I try not to bring that situation to everybody's attention, but it's possible. You can be a single mother and you can, have found love somewhere. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a hopeless case with all single mothers. It's just how you carry yourself.
Right.
And, you don't really have to always shoot for the high value man. You don't have to always have them that make six figures. Not everybody's going to make six figures.
Right.
So I said, you know what, if I can get myself in check and help others get themselves in check, especially the Black women, because that's our community. And I want to see us do better.
Right. let me ask you, being that because you've been on YouTube, TikTok longer than I have been in these YouTube platforms. My question to you then would be, because this is what I observe, and you can tell me whether I'm seeing the wrong thing. On one side of the water, I'm seeing Black men who are expressing themselves. Some seem like they're not fully developed when it comes to communication, to being able to articulate, not in their rightful place. Simultaneously, the brothers I talk to that's not on camera, that's not on YouTube, that's not doing any social media, they are fully expressing themselves as Uncle Stu. We can't find them. You know, we and these brothers, I will say with boldness, do have six figures. So you know what I'm saying? So they got the house, they have it. Even in their intellect, they know what a family is. So they're there, but they're saying the women ain't there. On the other side, and I've had this open platform, so I used to do lives, and it was like, can't hardly get women to come on the platform, but they'll go to another platform and just be all toxic. And then it's like, okay, well, have the conversation with me. I'm married to a Black woman. I have Black daughters. I have a Black son. I got Black nieces. I got all the black in the black of the black.
Yes.
But I can't get Black women to want to have that conversation. So what do you see going on? Is this online? Is this offline? What's the deep dive? What's the heart of the problem from a woman's perspective?
From my perspective, I see it going on online, more online and offline. It's
Okay.
about the same. And I would really say about I would really actually say 70% online and 30% in real life, because as having single friends, you know, I'm trying to school them on, you know, how to vet a young man. You know, it's not about me. And that's the problem. Like you said, they're out there, but they're not making themselves available for that man. And you know, it's being on TikTok, and you know, a lot of times they're skits, so I have to, you know, think about, is this real, or is this
Right.
edited? So, but seeing that the majority of it is real, you know, like I said, most women don't know how to vet. So I'm thinking I'm going to come along and help them vet for a man and make themselves available, like Ruth. You know, her mother-in-law told her, you know, to get out there in the fields and make yourself available. And when you do it in the right way. That's what I'm thinking. You know what I'm saying? So
I'll tell you what's even more powerful. What you just said. That should be your new nickname. You are the modern day Ruth. Every woman is always saying, "I'm looking for my Boaz. I'm looking for my Boaz." When I was in the dating scene, it was, and I'm sitting up here saying, "Yeah, but who's your Naomi? Who's the one teaching you how to get a Boaz?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want men to go to church, but I have a theology background, and I can tell a pimp, I don't care if he's behind the pulpit.
Exactly.
And when I tell them that, it's like baffling. Then it's like, okay, well, let's go scripture to scripture. And next thing you know, they don't even know their own Bible, but they're telling me I gotta be something that you're not even really. Now I'm into trying to break that cycle, in the sense of trying to get that communication out there. Here's some of the arguments that I hear from men. Maybe you can help me with it. You got the argument that you got some that want to go back. I'm Generation X, so they want to go back and they want to say Black feminism was the cause. I'm going to argue that a lot of these issues definitely came out of the 80s, but being born and raised in New York, I saw the destruction of what the crack epidemic did. So there's a part of me that understands why mothers was telling daughters to go get a degree. It's clear. But they was also telling us as men, you better learn how to cook, clean, wash, and sew. So I saw the teaching of the independent in that era. I am part of the Million Man March, so I was on the ground for that. You got some men now blame the Oprah and these other talk shows. I don't know if I can really just dig in and say Oprah was the one that did it.
Right.
What do you see, let's say growing up, or what was the messages that women was receiving or even men, but I know women was receiving, that has caused this uprising, this uptick in the real, I'm an independent, strong black woman, I don't need a man. Where did that come from? Or where do you think it came from?
I think it came from, like you said, feminism,
Right.
which wasn't our fight. And it came from some of the baby boomer generation that you were taught, get your education, go to school, get your degree, and make something of yourself so you won't have to depend on a man. But then as time came and passed by, the more women got their education and raised their children and didn't feel like they didn't need a man, but they wanted one. Because I don't understand how that works, but you can't have it both ways.
Right.
and one thing I have to say is that women, we are emotional people, and everybody shows their emotions at times, but also whenever you ask a man, like someone asked you, right, how do I vet a man, and then you tell them what to do and how to do it, and they go left when you told them to go right. And that education will not keep you warm at night. It cannot take care of you.
Right.
But I really think that the feminism movement, this right here, this is the fourth wave. Because if you technically think about it, the first wave was back in the 1890s.
Right.
And you already know that we had no part
Black
in that.
women was not a part of it. It was not a part of it.
Exactly. And 1920s when they wanted to vote because they couldn't get along with their men.
Right.
And once again, the third movement was 1960s.
Yeah, you're talking about the Patricia Collins, the Bell Hooks was that era, or it was the young black feminists that you would hear about.
Exactly. Yeah. Because they couldn't get along with their men, but you know what? They were actually doing that, and they were backdooring us. Make it where we're going to make it okay. You have federal assistance, and you can't have a man in the house. Lord knows if you have a man in the house, we're going to be able to tell, and then you won't be able to get the government assistance, because actually that assistance stuff was meant for them anyways.
Right.
That's a topic, right?
Right. No, that was a great topic. You speak on it. Speak on it.
And all the WIC and the TANF, all that was made for white women.
Right.
Not, and I seen it even with close family members that they couldn't have a man in the house. It was always but every time I turn around, she was pregnant. So I was like, I didn't think about the stuff that I'm talking about now when I was 10, right. But it just made me wonder, like, well, why isn't Uncle so-and-so in the home? But like I said, this is really overwhelming. You have gentlemen going over the seas, getting other women who are traditional. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, yes, there are still some traditional women over here, but some other women are making it harder for others. But because right now I'm getting my education. I'm in school and a mother. Right. So it's not hard. Those degrees just don't, it doesn't make you who you are.
Right. I always say, because I'll be leaving in May to go watch my daughter graduate with her master's. It's so humbling when your daughter goes, well, Daddy, how much age is a man allowed to be in order to date me? So it's like, whew, okay, she didn't get that stuff in her, But I always tell this story, and it really didn't hit me until I became online. My daughter, before, because she already got her bachelor's now, but prior to her getting her bachelor's, I was a single father. So I took her to her first college. Now, I don't mind saying it openly anymore. I took her to Bennett College, which is an all-female college. And she went there for middle school, so she was like, okay, I'll attend this HBCU as a black college. So, the parent takes the child on there. And she went for the visit to hang out. And I'm listening to all the women in the administration talk about how great Bennett College is. She comes out and I'm like, okay, I'm convinced, as a man, yeah, you probably do need to be around women and learn all the women stuff that I couldn't teach you. We get in the car and I said, well, how'd you like it? She was like, it's all right. I said, well, if you want to go here to this HBCU, I'll be willing to, back you and sign the papers and do whatever. She says, no. She says, because the way they was talking about men was not you. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, I'm ignorant because I have no clue what she heard, what, any of these things. I was just blind at that time. I'm just trying to go to work, go home, get her off to school. When I got online, now she already graduated with an undergrad, and I had called her and I said, listen, do you remember this conversation? And she said, yes. And I said, what happened? Like, what was you hearing? And she said, every time the women would talk, they would just blame men. There was no account. And the way they were describing me, Daddy, that wasn't you. You didn't leave me. You didn't abandon me. You didn't, it was like a bunch of you didn't. Now, I'm not God. I wasn't the, perfect person, but I wasn't anything that they was describing. So I get it. I want you to know on a personal level, I get it. I understand that. What generation are you? Would you say you're millennial, Gen Z, Gen X, millennial?
That's a good question because I've heard.
How old are you, if you don't mind, if that's not offensive to you?
Oh, I don't mind. I'm glad to be here. I'm 39.
You are millennial. my oldest daughter is 37, so they call that the older millennial generation. So you are millennial. That is awesome.
And that's funny that you say that because I was talking to my son's friends and they said, well, because they were playing basketball, and I said, let me shoot the J, and they were like, don't hurt yourself. I was like, excuse me, and it was like, well, how old are you? When were you born? I said 1983, and it was like, oh wow, that was the late 1900s. And then I sat back and I was like, you know what? You're right. Wow, I don't want that conversation no more. I don't.
Would you consider yourself a Southerner, Northerner?
Southerner.
Okay. Well, I spent most of my time in New York. Then I spent 17 years in North Carolina, and now I'm chilling in the DMV. So I've been all over. I've been all over. Let's go back. Being millennial, seeing the things that you saw. You have a son.
Yes.
And I assume that, is the father active in his life? If you don't mind me getting kind of personal.
Well, I was a single mother at one time, and he was not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, things happened, and he passed away. And
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it happened that way, but I look at it that I was able to move forward. Trying to, not like the women nowadays, be bitter about it and hateful towards all men because of the situation. It was a point that I had to work on myself and get therapy and talk to God and, make my list, how I needed to fix myself and how I needed to make changes so I can be a better parent. But I knew that one day that I needed to find someone for me, and not just for me, but also my son. And I did. I found him.
Beautiful. And I know that on the picture is you and him. So it was like, yeah, you go, girl.
Thank you. Next month will be 5 years.
All right, congratulations. I'll make sure that by next month this video is ready.
Okay, thank you.
Being that your situation is a little bit different because your son's dad had passed away, and again, I'm sorry for the loss. You talked about working on yourself. How do you get to, especially for your age group, how'd you get to that realization that I need to work on me? How do you tell another woman it's okay, you really need to work on you? And I'm gonna throw this little caveat out there. Choosing the right person, because in a lot of my observation and even personal experience, now I was lucky when I had to do therapy, and I'm a veteran. I was lucky that I had the right female therapist. I was lucky that I didn't have a therapist that was necessarily touched by feminism, and was, come on, man, we got to do all this emotional stuff. Now, again, she spoke about emotions, but it was more of our trauma. And then once we get out the trauma, it was like, okay, we ain't talking about that no more. It's now, time to learn how to live. But how did you choose that right therapist help somebody choose that right therapist without them going for therapy that's going to lead them right down the path of this anger and bitterness?
Actually, my therapist was actually my former male pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to talk with him, and I knew that in the back of my mind, yes, I could have spoke with a female therapist or a female pastor, but at the end of the day, I had to choose what was right for me, and knowing that the faith that I have is substance, like it's supposed to be.
Right.
But when I spoke with him, and he was very patient and sat me down, and we had like therapy once a week, and he told me one thing that I hear a lot of the words now: accountability. That I had to take accountability because I didn't choose the right person. I one child is, I wouldn't say a mistake, but if you keep making those decisions, then it's a decision all by itself in a nutshell. And
Right.
so, like, I was in a dark place and really wanted to take myself out. But
Mm.
after getting done with him, and I knew that I was recovered after about 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, I'm not going to give myself more than 3 or 4 or 5 years because time is you can't
Right.
get time back. And
Right.
after I got done, that's when I started searching, and I put myself on a pedestal, and I made a list on what I wanted in a man. And it wasn't that he had to have 6 figures. It wasn't that he had to have a house already. Somebody's got to flip the burgers. Somebody's got to work in, the manufacturing plants.
Right.
And,
Right.
It was just, it didn't take forever, and I couldn't be stuck on myself. So I knew that the change that I made,
Mm-hmm.
it worked out for the best. And that one word, like I said, accountability, it's a strong word, and it's like a stronghold. If you let it control you, you won't be able to move. You won't be able to listen to anybody. You won't be able to listen to that correction. And that's the thing that I had to buckle down and listen to, was the correction.
Let me ask this, and if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. Can you take me into your family, how you grew up, and then to that area where you accepted accountability? My observation is that a lot of women are growing up without a father. And because they don't have a father, they don't understand the real role of a father, a male, a husband. I always tell people, for me, I was lucky at the woman I found, but I never denied. Some of my 50-year-olds was gone, to the point where my wife laughs to this day. I said, I ain't trying to talk to no 50-year-old. I don't want to talk to y'all. Give me my 40-year-old, because they seem to have a little bit more sense. And even when I met my wife, I keep telling her, you lied to me about your age.
No, she didn't, did she?
Yeah, I said, you lied. You telling me you lied. You ain't 50. Stop lying. You know you young. But talk to me about that accountability piece, because that seems to be a curse word.
Yes.
But then I want to know, is it a curse word, or is it the way the message is coming to women about accountability? Because I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
That's my husband's favorite word, by the way, devil's advocate. But me personally, I grew up in a 2-parent household, and my dad, he was straight, was no chaser, and that's where I get a lot of that from. And I come off in a joking way. But I mean business, because I get tired of seeing the single parent household. But seeing how my father treated my mother, and he showed her respect, and she definitely showed him respect.
Mm-hmm.
It showed me that both of them taught me how to be a woman, a real woman, and taught me how to be a wife. I didn't realize that until I got to be an adult. But he didn't. Of course, I was the only child, and he babied me a little bit. But then by the time I got to, that certain age, he cut all that off. Yes, I was that little girl, I was princess, but it wasn't to the point where, you're spoiled rotten, and, you're one of the bad apples from the tree. And a lot of times, some people are coddled. And then, like you said, too, you have some who don't have men, fathers in the household, so they're leaning and depending on their mother to be the mothers and the fathers. But my dad, he taught me how to change oil in the car, everything, to fight, defend myself. And last but not least, he taught me how to hold the flashlight whenever he was changing an alternator. So yeah. I send a special shout out to him because he really showed me how to be a real woman, because it's just hard out there. And my mom, she worked and she came home and she cooked and she cleaned. She was a traditional woman because actually they were part of the baby boomers club, and I appreciate it to this day.
Right.
Really
Right.
do.
Well, I just lost my dad, almost 7 months ago. So,
Sorry
but every time I hear stories, it makes me just look at that picture to my left and like, type of deal. Lost my son, which is, you probably can't see the photo, but he's right behind me. That was almost over a year ago. So, I had like back-to-back situations, but because of them too, I was able to, hold on as a male and keep it going. Do you see you coming from a two-parent home? I define it as a tale of two cities. Do you think the tale of two cities is clashing? What do I mean by tale of two cities? The people, and I'm gonna put you in my category. People who come from a two-parent home, probably a certain sociological, economic status. We've seen, at least 80% of our home was healthy, 80% of our community healthy. And now we're engaging with people who never saw even half of a healthy home or half of a healthy environment. And I say that because I no longer use terms like Pookie and Ray Ray. I understand what they mean, but I refuse to use the word because when I started on YouTube, some of the guys that will surround me, and when I say surround me, may come on my platform, just have great conversation, they would tell me, Uncle Stu, I came from that background. I came from that. And that's when they began to explain to me that that really was a derogatory term, as opposed to, the typical what I would have thought it was. How do you see a tale of two cities where you got a group that did come from a healthy background and want to help this other side? Or is this happening or am I just being too prejudiced in that area?
If I may, I think I understand what you're saying. It's coming from both sides. You have the ones who are just hard-headed, who do have two-parent households, and then you have the ones who did come from a one-parent household. Because a lot of times I can't really say that I've known a lot of individuals who were raised by their fathers. It was always by single mothers.
Okay.
And I actually say, don't call yourself a single mother. You are a single woman with a child.
So we got to change the language.
Yes. It's all about the lingo.
How do we get both sides to hear? I'm gonna pretend that every man that I'm speaking for in the theory, a lot of them ain't really, I'm always about the production piece, but a lot of them is arguing they can't find a woman to submit. Now I always say submission is in marriage, but they talk about, or they use the terms conditional submission, or looking for that conditional femininity. And I understand what they're referring to. I really do. Is that a struggle for women? When you're hearing that as a woman, what are you hearing when men are saying that?
As a woman?
Kind of wrong. Yeah. Like I said, today I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Okay.
I'm playing the opposite side for a reason. It's not, I don't believe these guys, they just need to, pick themselves up. That's not the side I'm playing. I am purposely playing the devil's advocate, which is I'm purposely trying to flip an argument to see where things really are versus where it should be.
Okay, well, that's one of the words that is one of the curse words: accountability and submission.
Right.
Honestly speaking, it's even in the Bible, as you know of. Right. Husbands have to submit to their wives, and wives have to submit to their husbands.
Right.
And as a woman, you can't just go around submitting to everybody. Mm-hmm. If it's all about cooperation and being non-chaotic. Whenever you vet that right person and that's what you want the person to spend the rest of your life with and marry, that is who you submit to. And I know that I hear a lot that, well, I can't submit to a man that doesn't know how to lead. Well, get a man that knows how to lead, so you won't have to worry about that. But you're supposed to be feminine anyways, not masculine, because you have to do it all by yourself and be a strong, independent woman. You actually have to be interdependent, and that's what a lot of us don't know how to do. So to change the narrative, I want to start coaching individuals to work on that interdependency.
I would say make sure you send me that information so that everybody that see you, especially being that you're on YouTube, that people can start going to your YouTube page and reaching out to you for that kind of help. From a man's perspective, what would you advise someone like myself in the sense of helping women to see that not all of us men are quote unquote toxic, that we can be, as they say online, because I'm total alpha, but I'm a comedian. It doesn't mean I'm running around here with a club and beating my wife up and you sit there, fix my sandwich. Every man in my house, we cook. It's like we gotta cook, and not because we don't want. That's like the sexiest thing to do,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We used to get the women and be like, yeah, baby, I know how to cook this steak. Let me show you how we do it. But in that regard, what can men do, or what do you think we're not doing enough, even as content creators, to get the message across? Do you think that our wording is wrong? People used to, and it kind of got me. People argue about Kevin Samuels' tone, and it's like, okay, if you get past the tone, y'all still wishing this man deceased, but then you're spending money. Now, here's the thing that gets me. What is this guy's name? Derek Jackson.
Yes.
Who openly disrespected his wife. I didn't even see people in the manosphere like, yeah, Derek, I'm glad you got your wife that way. It was so blatant. I think more black men, and I got to give kudos, more black men had more compassion for his wife than black women had for Kevin Samuels. But then nobody, all these women are still paying money to hear Derek Jackson with him doing what he did. So I don't understand what's going on. Why is Derek Jackson the hero after he blatantly disrespected his wife publicly and openly? We vitriol Kevin Samuels. You vitriol other black content creators. I mean, vitriol them. But then guys like this is getting a pass. And we see it not only online, but you and I being connected to the church. I see this throughout the whole church.
Yes.
Even my bishop left ministry because, and when I say left ministry, he didn't cheat on his wife. My bishop's first lady passed away last year, but he left ministry because of the foolishness.
It's a lot of that going on. I'm sorry.
No, you keep going.
It's to the point where Derek, he was simping, as one of the favorite words that I hear. He didn't do it right, and I feel like there's an alpha man and a beta man.
Right.
It's just that he was out of control. He was doing more popular work, to get his books sold and catering to the women instead of existing and helping like he's supposed to. But the words that y'all are using, there's nothing wrong with them. Like you said about even with Mr. Samuels, because I was on one of his shows, and
oh, you were? Okay.
Yes, and he was very polite to me, and as so I was polite to him. It's like I said before, it's all about the wordplay. If you come at me raw, I might come back at you raw. But being the bigger person and being able to stop and listen and take that correction, a lot of women aren't doing that. And you can say it slow, you can say it carefully, and you can tread lightly across the text, but it just, some things you just have to wash your hands with if it's just not working. And I really hate to say that, but in all actuality, you can say All right, say a woman comes to you and asks, okay, how do I get a good man? Okay, well, what are your qualifications? What are you bringing to the table? Or better yet, instead of asking that question, because I noticed that a bunch of guys ask that question, you would say, how can I benefit you? Or how can you benefit me as a wife? Not, can you submit? Can you cook? Can you clean? Because everybody is an adult, so you have to be able to do that anyway, unless
Right.
It's more or less, I guess, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and that's where a lot of women get off with. Well, he said it in a nasty tone, and he was nasty, and he called me names. Mr. Samuels was an image consultant, so he went by, what he saw. He called it like he saw it, and
Right.
If you're asking for something, you should be able to give that as well.
Right.
That's where when he said make it make sense, I was like, you know what? He's right. You do got to make it make sense. I can't ask for something and not provide, because it's all about reciprocity.
If I like the way you said to change that word on the table. What other words do you think needs to be changed or needs to have a better in-depth wording?
It's really ridiculous. It's so much. It's, like you said before about the Pookie and the Ray Rays. Now it's been changed over to the Jermaines and Dantes. It is. But if you realize, there are rich men who are Pookies and Dantes. Look at the rappers. They're
Right.
setting the tone for individuals, men and women to go by. So if you make $30,000 a year, all right, that's not poor, but it's not rich either. So you have to think like, well, if that's how much money I make, maybe I can get the best of the best. But if you're not willing to work for it, then just to have a seat.
Yeah, because one of the things that I see, and I'm fortunate that I'm in that six-figure category. If a lot of people don't get it together, they're not going to make it as single people. All this money we've been so happy to receive, they got to pay for it,
Yes.
and middle class is about to pay for it, in a huge way. People that's into the real estate understands real estate market, especially on the rental side, is unregulated. They're getting ready to get rid of all of you single people out of their community. They don't want to hear about the struggle. They don't want to hear about white oppression. They don't want to hear about systematic. All of them excuses. They really don't care. It's like, we're not going to say anything. We're just going to do this in silence.
Yep.
So I'm trying to set an alarm about that now. Where are we going as a community? Do you think that there's a remnant that there's going to be more majority that's basically going to delete themselves off the planet because of just that failure to move forward? Or is there a way to turn this Titanic around?
Well, as you know, with the Titanic, they saw the ice, but it didn't see the bottom. And that's where we're going with it, because we're about to hit head-on collision with life itself. Like you said, they're getting rid of all the Section 8. They're getting rid of all the single people who just don't want to. They just feel like they have to do it all by themselves. I feel like we were placed on this planet to be with someone. Everybody needs someone to love.
Correct.
And with all the non-accountability, and if you think about it, I was just speaking with one of my colleagues the other day, and she said, "Girl, there's no good real men out here." I said, "Well, were you meeting these guys?" She's like, "Well, I don't go nowhere." I said, "Well, you have to get out and make yourself available." She was like, "Well, I don't want to do all that." We have to make a change, but you can't twist anybody's arm to get them to change. They're either going to want better for themselves, or they're just going to just stay single and lonely. Like, perfect example that you used, they're getting rid of things. Look at 3 years ago when we had the toilet paper and the water situation. I feel like men are doing their very best because I used to go with my dad to, hate to get off topic, I used to go with my dad to the barber shops, and they would talk pure cash stuff about women. And then I'm like, you know what? Y'all are a trip. I was like, no, it's not women to do that. It's okay. And then once I got to be an adult and I started seeing it for myself, that wow, the words are powerful. I want the women to change. And I used to say just women in general, but I was like, no, I'm gonna change the narrative. It's gonna be just Black women because we are married less, but we're having a bunch of children. And like I said, my motto is, if you make one mistake, okay, maybe we can slide it up under the door. But once you keep having 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 without one of these, it's crazy. We can't do it by ourselves. We can't teach boys how to be men. And honestly, we can teach girls how to be women, but they still need a father in their life.
Right.
And now that I'm seeing in my area that they're cutting losses, they're cutting the WIC, they're cutting all the social services off. And I really hate to see it happen like that, but I believe that they need to put it back like it's supposed to be. They need to put that for the homeless people. They need to put that for people who are veterans.
Right.
But they don't want to talk about that though. But right. I do.
Do you work in, not to get into your personal, do you work in social service?
No, I don't.
Okay. My other daughter is a supervisor in that. So that's how I'm able to get the backdoor information about what's going on there. It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is getting ready to get hot, very hot in here. I'm mentoring a young man, and he asked me 2 very powerful questions, and I told him I would ask you these questions. One of the question is always going to be, Uncle Stu, what is the benefit of, and this was powerful. He's 40. He says, what's the benefit of marriage when I, as a man, I got my own place, job, money, I can just go down the street, kind of get what I want, and basically come home, without having to deal with all the foolishness of women. And while I can answer that, but I also said, I want to be fair and let me give it to a woman to answer. So I'm bringing you his question. I didn't give him an answer. I told him I'm gonna hold off on giving an answer. What's the benefit of marriage in this dating environment? Because honestly speaking, a lot of people ain't gonna listen to me. I am Generation X. I got all this gray, but I understand it. See, that's the sad part. I get it. I can sit up here and show you this, and this, but I'm not too far removed from the dating scene that is like, yeah, I used to make jokes with mine. If you leave me, I'm going overseas and I know I can afford it. So, I mean, I just, so how do we, what is the benefit today?
Well, one of the benefits is, as a woman and as a wife, you get that one benefit as in, having someone to cater to. Well, I'm not for sure if I should use that word. Because
speak freely, because sometimes I think a lot of us, we're so busy trying to get caught up in the YouTube vocabulary. We got to speak freely. And if I got to explain what the emotional intelligent words to use, I'm very emotionally intelligent, so I can fill in the words without it being a trigger word for everybody.
Right. Well, just knowing that you be there for someone and cater to them, and knowing that that's your life partner, and it's supposed to be when you say I do till death do us part, all the things that come with it, it's more or less, I think that it benefits both, but more or less women are benefiting from it because they think that just because they're not happy that they can just break off a relationship and go on their merry way, and then they're benefiting from the alimony and the child support. But if you vet the right woman, if you do like they do in other countries, and I know United States, we're modern and we're ahead of our time and everything, but I'm I'm not sure where to go with that. It's that's a good question, you know?
And I let you really marinate on that because um if that question had to come to me, and I have my youngest son is 24. Um it's a hard question to answer in this type of an environment. From the economic standpoint, like I said, y'all can't afford to stay single. You just can't. We not even gonna play those numbers.
Right.
The numbers ain't there. Y'all can brag about 50% of black men is in the middle class. No, you're not. I got the real numbers. No, you're not. And if you're going on 5 years ago, middle class, 10 years ago, you have been wiped out. So you can forget that part. So I got that side. Doing a video where I'm trying to be as compassionate as possible to explain the benefits of prenuptial agreement, because I'm trying to get women to understand this is not a talking point. When you've moved up into a different socioeconomic class, which majority of black people has moved up to, there's some assets. And yes, the 90s, we didn't know nothing about prenuptial agreements because we always thought that was for the rich until we hit a different socioeconomic class. But it's not about mistrust. This is about division of assets. My wife and I got it, because she has assets, I have it. If something, God forbid, happens, neither one of us, we too old to be trying to go back and refix and build and do all this crazy stuff. But it also is a protection for her as well as myself. Do you think that we're not advocating, let's say, prenuptial agreements that can maybe solidify a decent, wholesome marriage today?
Well, I think prenuptial agreements would be best, but I also feel like you should come in with what you have, and if you want to leave, then leave what you had. and that comes from my dad, because it's and the relationships nowadays, most women, they don't want to sign a prenup agreement. They will fight you tooth and nail in order for that to happen. Whether they're making six figures or not, I'm not going to sign that. Why not? If you, like I said earlier, if you're making $30,000 a year, that should be enough for you to make it, and move on. But it's all about the happiness along with that prenup, because I knew of an individual, and her fiance had some money, and she said that she was not going to sign the prenup agreement. And I was like, well, why? She said, well, his money is my money. I said, no. His money is his money. Then when y'all become one, then if something happens and you leave him, then, you're not going to be able to get anything. Like I said, you have to, if you're going to leave because unhappiness, then leave with what you came in.
That's a deep statement, because you said something that is going to be coming out of my premiere. Jackie, who I interviewed, said the same thing, not in the sense of marriage. You said the same thing about this word happiness. She says a lot of happy and they're really miserable. Is that what you're also saying? Is that and both of y'all is about a year apart in age. So is that what you're seeing now, that black women just are not happy?
They're not happy at all. And I look at it like this right here. Happiness comes from within. If you don't make yourself happy, how can you make somebody else happy? You can't. One thing I've learned about being in a marriage, having a husband, is that we make each other happy. Right. There's times that, I do different things for him and he does the same thing for me. But if you don't put forth that effort to make each other happy and you're not happy within yourself, it's not going to work. you can't. What did the older generation say? You can't pull blood from a turnip.
Right.
And you know, a lot of people that I know and that I see on the social media platforms, they're just leaving because they're not happy. And I'm like, and I know mental health is an issue. I know it's real, but
let me throw this out. Because I'm very, very political. I am very political. God knows I'm very political. I am what my wife would probably call me and my son, we are strong on the right hand side of sense of conservatism. So we staunch conservatives. We ain't gonna wear the mega hat because we don't feel like we don't feel like going out there like that. But I want to throw this out, and you're allowed to push back. There's a lot of policies that I feel has been coming out of the Democratic Party. Now, I know both parties had their issues when it comes to race and all that. I got that. But a lot of policies is being pushed out from the Democratic side. Do you think that with that feminism, is it that women are trying to prove feminism right and therefore it's making them miserable? Or do you think there's this thing coming out of Democratic Party, political party, even if you want to get on the Republicans, the political party that is just overwhelming women with a sense of non-reality? The whole oppression, feminism, systematic racism, like all of this stuff that they may not personally be experiencing, but we're just regurgitating.
Well, since that's the case, I feel like a bunch of those are really the excuses at hand, because look at back in the 50s and 60s, well, I would say maybe 40s and 50s, when there was still segregation and we were married at 80%. I'm just trying to figure out when I give an example on stuff like that, I get a lot of pushback. And yes, we did have the feminism movement and the racism and stuff, but if you think about it, it's it clashes, because not only is it going on our side, it's going on their side as well. And excuse me, one thing about it is I don't know, I get a little emotional when I think about stuff like that, because there's something. I look at my grandmother and my great grandmother. They were married at an early age, but they made it work. And with all the racism that happened back in the day, couldn't go and sit down and eat places, they still made it work. But the thing, when I say, I give examples, what is the problem? Why can't we make this thing work? Then it was like, well, my grandmother, she was cheated on and she had this happen and that happened and she was oppressed and she worked for the white people and she cleaned up. Okay, but she still made it work. And it's just, we just rely on the excuses so much that we just got to make a change.
Yeah. I won't hold you up. When I hear that, I sit there and I kind of shake my head, because I go, okay, so you're telling me all these black men out of 40, they were just wild. My grandmother was getting beat up. It's like, wait. Are you telling me all this stuff, all these men? So my two grandfathers was no good. My daddy was no, and I'm going, what was my grandfather's own homes?
Yep.
Like where is this stuff coming? And then when you ask for the numbers and the data, it's like, no, we just going on this story that grandmama was just oppressed. And I'm going, well, how one minute we talking about Big Mama house, and next minute we talking about the grandmother? Now, which story are we gonna go with? So I get it. I would definitely like to invite you back again.
Thank you.
I should have this video ready within probably a week. I want to thank you. You said a whole lot, and I'm hoping that people, reach out to you. Especially since you're on YouTube, and I don't know how many TikTokers else I got watching my platform, but I'm definitely hoping that people will definitely reach out to you. I would definitely like to bring you back again, even if we do a live show, so that people can really hear from you and hear your story, and maybe get some women that can really hear what does accountability look like, what does this look like, hear that soft voice that they need to be taught. um, I don't see a lot of married women online. um, and then the ones that's usually older than me, the few that I've seen, especially on TikTok, it's like, yeah, I've been divorced, but you don't need. I mean, it was like, oh my God, like this is what we're spilling out. And of course, they got the cheerleaders, so
Yes.
all men is no good. And it's like, oh my God.
It's like all of them?
Yeah, all of them, and none of them. And the few that's good, they already married, but they cheating on their wives, so they in my DMs. I'm like, really? Yeah. Let me ask this last bonus question, and then we will end it there. We have two different issues. You did mention the passport brothers, men going overseas. Number for number, what do you feel, or how do you feel about Black men dating out, being that we having so much trouble with African American women, that you do have a section of Black men in silence saying, listen, Mary Jane over here, she bringing everything to the table, and I'm over here now. Americanized Sin Lu, we in this socioeconomic class. I bring that because my wife and I was watching this program dealing with the football league, where they go through the whole year with one team. Right now, her team lost the Super Bowl, so she hurting still. But we was watching the Dallas Cowboys. Mm. And every time they show a Dallas Cowboy player, he had a white wife. And I said, it's interesting. I said, forget Dallas as a team, forget what anybody think. I'm like, all of these players got white wives. Then when they would show it in other teams, like, there's very few of these players that got a Black woman. Mm-hmm. And that kind of hit me because I just never thought about it. But then you got the visceral of a Black man can't be with a white woman. He gets visceral. But y'all voted for Kamala Harris. You're happy for the tennis player, and now you got a Supreme Court judge, and ain't none of them sporting a Black brother.
Exactly.
It's just, and if you can't answer it now, let's put that question on the back burner. But I'm really trying to get an understanding of that piece, because to me, that's total hypocrisy.
It is, and you're right. I do see that a lot with all the ones that you named. Even like you said, the all the teams. Even was it the Chiefs that played? Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness! I just seen a clip that he was ran down. That he's not Black, that he's white.
Right.
I was like, what? I'm not going to go into the one drop rule, but the thing is, I don't blame them. And as much as I'll say, please stay over here and get a good Black woman, if it's just not possible, go elsewhere, go abroad, make yourself happy, go and get treated right, go where you're not going to be put on a shelf as a corny, lame individual, because you're not going to tolerate a lot of foolishness. And if that woman, whether she's white or Native American or Asian, have at it, whatever makes you happy. And yeah, I can say long ago I was a little heated, a little visceral about that. Like, why are they choosing to go out with white women or marry white women? But if you're being treated with respect, then that's where you're going to go, and I don't blame them.
Well, once again, I want to thank you for your time, and I'm definitely going to be inviting you back again because I think you got a wealth of knowledge and information that needs to be out here, needs to be broadcasted, and needs to be repeated. So I want to thank you for being that advocate for men and helping my young brothers get through and letting them know that there is some good Black women that do support them. And I think that's something they need to see more of.
Yes.
They need to see more of. And let everybody know you're not a pick me, you're already picked.
I am picked. Thank God, right here. I'll be a pick me all day because I got picked.
That's right. I want to take this time to say thank you to Nurse Glow for giving us her time and her attention and definitely her knowledge and wisdom and understanding. And I want to thank each and every single one of y'all for coming out to see this premiere. And if you've seen this premiere later, make sure you leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and leave me a message and let me know what was some good things you heard from Nurse Glow. This is Uncle Stu, the old man on the block. Peace.